Hey guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome to a old school duping the vibes video. It's been a while, it's been a while I guess since I've done one of these, and I was prompted because the new Urban Decay Naked Wild West released or is releasing now these days. I don't know, it was announced, it's releasing, and I feel personally taken into, I don't know, the discussion because it's a palette that normally would be in my colors. It is a warm neutrals, sandy tones with teal type of palette. And you say, wow, I look at that and I see Alice. So I decided, well, let me see what I have in my collection and also have a bit of a commentary on the palette and share my thoughts. At the end of this video, I also have a tutorial for this eye look. I thought I'd throw it in there. And yeah, let's start with my thoughts on the palette. So, as I said, it really would be an Alice palette. But when I think about it, it's an Alice palette from 2015? 2015, 2016. Do you remember when we all had the warm crease and the aqua inner corner, the pop of blue, the first Jaclyn Hill palette, both the collaboration, like the first Jaclyn Hill like edit with Morphe, but then also her big palette had such pops of teal. Let me see if I find it actually. Yeah, here it is. I still haven't decided since we talked in my declutter, but you see these shades, the warm tones, the yellow. This is 2017 and it was already on the tail end, like it wasn't innovative at that time. So I feel like Urban Decay is kind of a bit late on the train, and it's a bit of a weird, Wild West theme. I love the idea. I love the fantasy that it gives. But I find that they could have done more, obviously. I don't know. I feel a bit underwhelmed. I will not be buying the palette. But it could be a very, very good palette for those who don't really wear a lot of color, who like warm tones, who do like to have a little bit of color. Like also very typical from the time was a blue underneath with a liner and smudged eyeshadow and then a very warm lid. So all of these things I think are very, it's very representative, but of that time. So I think it's like some 4 or 5 years too late. And yeah, that was a little bit my thoughts on the palette. I will not be purchasing it. I'm actually very curious if you are, what are your reasons? Because I want to hear different opinions, of course. This is just mine right here. What I did was go through my single eyeshadow collection, as I do, and create a duping the vibes type of palette right here that we're gonna go through now. It's not a perfect dupe simply because I don't have the palette myself. And I wanted to add an extra shade right here to show you what I meant with how they could have gone a little bit further with this. I would have added something very reddish terracotta type of vibe versus a more toned down brown like I added here, but I'm not actually really sure which one of the two, of course, is in the palette. I see swatches online and they're completely different. I watch videos on YouTube and they're completely different. So yeah, tread with caution, and if you have the opportunity to see it in store, I would definitely do that before I buy. Another item that I would keep in mind is that what is Wild West to you can be different, but I was a little bit thinking, and what do I have that reminds me of this theme? And that is the bronze palette. I mean, look at these hot Arizona sunset colors. I think the bronze palette is a very good option to do exactly the looks that you're doing with the Wild West palette, but then without the teals. On the other side, you also have Natasha Denona Gold, which has the sandy tones, the golds, and the teals. So I feel like they kind of made a mishmash of these two and made a palette out of it. I personally don't like Urban Decay quality. My last palette I bought from them was the Born to Run, and I sold it after a month because I really didn't like the quality. It was not pigmented. I had to layer a lot to get the color out of it, and in principle that one had way more color and more intensity and more saturation. That was more in my vibe. Anyways, enough blabbing about the palette. Let's take a look at the shades that I chose to dupe it. And this is just to, I don't know, play around, you guys. We're just having fun. The first shade is a somewhat warm-leaning light brow bone highlight. I actually didn't do a brow bone highlight because I don't normally do them. Let me see if I find. I'll do that now online. I chose Banana Split by Makeup Geek. These square pans by Makeup Geek have been gifted to me for, I just wanted to share for disclosure reasons, but you'll always find these things disclosed in my description box with an asterisk when products have been gifted to me. So a little bit of a matte brow bone highlight. It can be an inner corner, a matte inner corner highlight as well. And let me start swatching as well. We have Banana Split right here, and it's just a little bit of a yellow toned light. Yeah, you probably don't see it very well on my skin. Next up is the more yellowy transition shade. I picked Had Me at Yellow, also by Makeup Geek. I also stabbed my nail into it while picking it out of the palette 10 times, and it's what I'm wearing in my crease today. And it's just a bit of a more yellow toned transition. It's not a real yellow. I mean, a real yellow would be chickeny, let's say, and that's what I actually would have preferred in here. And I was thinking of even putting a redesigned version of this, but I don't have any attachment to it right now. Like I don't feel the need for such a palette right now. So one, because it's more of a summer type of color story, and two, because we've done it for years already. We're over the pop of green or blue into a palette, I think. Then maybe I'm wrong. If you think I'm wrong, let me know in a nice way down in the comments. The next shade that they have in the palette is a little bit more of a neutral transition. I picked Creme Brulee by Makeup Geek. It's a staple for me, and it has a little bit, it's more neutral, hazelnutty tone. When you look at them next to each other, it even almost looks pink, but it really isn't. It's just this one is very yellow. So these are the first three transitions. Even here, do you need all three? I don't think so, but it gives you variety of undertones. So on a big palette with 12 shades, it could be a good thing to have. Then there's two chunky shimmers, and every review that I've seen has said, be careful, they're chunky, be careful, you need to either foil them or put on a glitter glue. You really will get fallout from it. So not the greatest review, but it may be a more innovative formula for Urban Decay than their standard metallic eyeshadows. I picked Colored Raine Lioness. The golden there is very warm, almost orangey, and Lioness is maybe less orange and a bit more gold compared to the one in the palette. And you can see this one, it looks chunky in the pan, but it just, I don't know, it's molten metal really formula wise. I love this eyeshadow. It's what I'm wearing on the inner corner, and that is another thing. For inner corners, this palette is a bit lacking, I find. These tones are too dark for me as an inner corner highlight. On deeper skin tones they will work, but not for lighter skin tones, and this is really a bit of a limit because I find that it doesn't really flatter my inner corner as much as a lighter gold would, but that was also my choice of placement. The next up is actually a chunky silver. I've heard it described this way, and I don't really own many silvers or chunky silvers, and I feel like I picked On a Whimsy by Colourpop, but I think it's too silver, too cool tone for what the palette has inside. And this one right here is also molten metal, and it's not chunky or glittery at all, but you can see it's really like this, they really look like gold and silver juxtaposed against each other. I don't think this is the best dupe that exists for this shade that they have in the palette, but I don't own any of these shades, and I also would never wear it. I don't know. If I pick up the palette and you look at like, that offends me. Or not offends me, annoys me. Just doesn't fit. Next up, they put in somewhat of a more sandy, cool toned type of matte, and I picked Beach Please by Makeup Geek. This one has the added bonus that you can really layer it on to be quite dark. So it's, you can see it has a different depth than these two shades. So I like that, and I think that's also very similar to the one in the palette. And I think overall they put in a lot of transition shades that I personally like to have the options for, so I don't dislike the choices they made. You just need to be really, really sure that they're really different when you choose those, to put so many transition shades of different undertones in a palette. And then since I cannot see the palette in person, I don't know that, but these are my choices. Then we get to the only pop of color, let's say, or the pop of color of the palette, which is this shimmery aqua color. I've seen it applied. It's not really textured. It's a more subdued metallic, just a normal metallic. I picked Lucid by Lethal Cosmetics because Lucid is actually a beautiful, multifaceted, light teal aqua shade. So you have a little bit of a deeper base and some texture on top from both sparkle and metallic. I really like it. It's what I have on my eyes right now, and it's really, really beautiful. Next up in the palette is a, I don't know, it looks like a brown bronzy shimmer in some photos, and then I've seen the videos and everybody describes it as a copper shimmer. So I went with a copper shimmer, but then I didn't want to just go with a copper shimmer, so I picked Tammy Tanuka Enchanted by His Treasures. And I did put down a little bit of glitter glue now because this one is a chunky, sparkly eyeshadow, so I wanted to make sure that you could see it. The other swatches are just on my skin, but this one here I put down a little bit of glitter glue, and this is what it looks like. I think it has such a beautiful dimension with a lot of glittery goodness on top, and the base is a deeper copper, and I am wearing it today as well a little bit. I think it's beautiful. I think this is the type of colors that really would pop and would contribute to this palette being interesting. And yeah, I don't know how interesting it is in person, but yeah. Next up we have the warm brown, orangey brown, terracotta color, and I picked Cheetah Bear because it's a classic for this type of shade by Makeup Geek. And honestly, this is the muted version, as I mentioned. And it's beautiful. I have it in the crease. You can really see how good these three pair together, and I understand. On the other hand, I could have also gone with something brighter, like Crisscross by Colourpop. Now this is much more reddish and bright. You can see it. The difference is quite there. But it would have pulled the palette away from a naked palette, from a very neutral palette. But that is kind of the direction I would have gone. I would have gone with this, I would have gone with Chickadee in place of this one. Just pop those colors. Then you're officially not a naked palette anymore, but then again, we've seen Naked Ultraviolet, so could be anything, right? I'm gonna try to continue on my wrist with the dark mattes, which is never really a good idea, but you'll get the gist of the colors. The warmer brown, deep brown that they put in, I chose Dark Roast by Makeup Geek. This is one of the older palettes, or the older pans, because the tone of the tone of chocolatey brown in here is the one that I was looking for, and I think is in the palette. Compared to these, it's actually quite cool tone, it looks like, but it really isn't. And you'll see it compared to the next two shades. finally I get to the matte teal that is in the palette, and you know which one I would pick is Time Travel by Makeup Geek. I like this one a lot. It's a staple teal, just a standard teal, your standard teal. But this also, like the original round pan has been around for 5, 6, 7 years. Like it's not new stuff. We've had these, this is also staining my fingers quite a lot. We've had these shades around in palettes for a while, and I know I've used it in most of my BYOPs, I've used it in most of my duping the vibes videos because it shows up a lot. And the final tone is a matte that is a deep matte, and it's difficult to understand. I've heard someone call it more of a purpley brown and more of a gray brown. I picked Take for Granite by Makeup Geek, which is more on the gray side than the purple side. And it's a cool toned gray brown, granite brown. And you can see how, yeah, these ground the look, any look that you do, these will really deepen up. And I think from that point of view, they did decent job with picking all of these 3 dark tones. You only have one mid-tone, 1.5, let's say mid-toned matte, and then you have a bunch of light transition, or 2 transitions and a highlight, brow bone highlight, and 4 shimmers. I think overall the balance of the palette is good. I would not have done a gold and a silver myself, and I would have gone, as I said, much more saturated. And I think it's just, yeah, late. It's a good palette, it's a good color story, but it's late. And right now, we don't want a neutral with a pop of blue anymore. We're over that, done that, and that's about it. Here are the swatches of my dupe palette, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts. What would you change in the palette, or would you just buy it? Do you like it? Yeah, I'm not gonna buy it, obviously, and I will show you how I reached this look right now in the next clip. I hope you enjoy it, and I'll talk to you soon. With this look, we are throwing it back to, what is it, 2015, 2016. I am starting with You Had Me at Yellow by Makeup Geek into the crease to function as a transition. And it's not too yellow. I would have gone way more saturated with these eyeshadows if I was making the palette myself, but I am not. So let's do with what we have. And then taking Cheetah Bear from Makeup Geek and using that to deepen all the crease and give me that warm brown look that was so in 5 years ago. I'm bringing it up a little bit higher because I wanted really to dominate the look, and yeah, then going back in with the brush I used previously to blend everything out. For the outer corner, I'm taking Dark Roast and just deepening the lower part and really just the lash line and outer V with a smaller brush. I'm using mostly Zoeva and Nabla brushes actually. And then taking that small blender, one of my favorite, to just make sure everything is blended nicely together. You have to pardon this area, but I'm not 20 years old anymore. So everything is a little bit wrinkly. Now let's get these shimmer on the eyes. Lucid by Lethal Cosmetics was my choice for the pop of green, blue, aqua shade. And it reminds me so much of the Jaclyn Hill palette. So much. Lucid is a very nice shade though. It has a little bit of sparkle on top. It's not so flat. It's not just a simple metallic. And then to transition, the teal to, or the green, blue, aqua color to the browns. I'm taking Tamitanuka Enchanted by His Treasures. This is a glittery eyeshadow, so I'll spray my brush. I just took the other side of the one that I used for Lucid and just tap, tap, tap to make a transition between the brown and the teal. It just makes it all, you see, kind of have a different vibe. And then for my inner corner, I am taking Colored Raine Lioness. This is from the Safari palette. And I'm gonna see if I can get it to stick dry. On the other eye, I did it wet. This is maybe a little bit of a darker color than I would use normally in my inner corner. But if the other option is silver, you won't catch me putting that one in my inner corner very soon. And I'm just gonna tap all the shimmers back onto each other to make sure they're vibrant and they go well together. For my liner, I'm using Burnt Sienna by NYX. You can see how small it is. It's one of my favorite eyeliners. And it's just a very warm brown, so it fits really well. Looks like my fingers are dirty because I'm getting eyeshadow all over my face. With a small smudger brush and Cheetah Bear again, I'm gonna smudge my lower lash line and blend that eyeliner. Just so that you don't see it anymore. And then some mascara and we are done. And here is the finished look using my dupe palette for the Urban Decay Wild West palette. Naked Wild West actually. And I hope you enjoyed. And if you did, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I'll see you in my next video. Bye guys.